Welcome to the recap of Sweet Home Season 1. In September 2020, Cha Hyun-soo is a soldier's target in what appears to be a no man's land. 1 month earlier, he moved into the apartment complex Green Home where a variety of people live. Depressed and suicidal, he avoids getting outside and relies on food deliveries. One night, he realizes that his ramyeon delivery was opened by his next door neighbor and witnesses someone in her apartment eating her pet cat. He rushes into his apartment but is followed by his neighbor asking for help before turning into a gluten monster. Meanwhile, on the ground floor, residents cannot go out of the building which is on lockdown and one of them dies in the hands of a vampire monster. Asleep and guarded by his upstairs neighbor Jin-soo, Hikikomori Hyun-soo relieves the last moments before his parents' and sister's deaths in a car crash as well as their funeral where he blames them for not leaving him enough money to survive. Jisoo and Jaehyun encounter the lotus root monster. Hyun-soo saves two orphan siblings whose father was killed by the eyeball monster and then is saved in return with the help of his disabled neighbor Do-sik, but soon starts experiencing symptoms. Hyun-soo encounters the monster side of himself who tries to convince him to embrace his evil side. The protein monster manages to infiltrate the building and is currently chasing the orphans Jim Soo-yeon. Meanwhile, the survivors on the ground floor watch the national broadcast and witness in horror as the president turns into a monster, causing panic amongst the survivors. The next morning, the desperate mother Cha Jin-wook opens the gate of the building and tries to rescue her daughter. The soldier Lee Sung-un rushes to save her only for the vampire monster to impale them both, killing them. Yi Kyung manages to escape from her bonds and escapes from the tentacle monster. An official government announcement details the current incident to the survivors. Suddenly, something attacks Hyun-soo, making him fall free from the 9th floor to the ground. Moments later, he wakes and is approached by Yoon-hyuk and Yoon-yu. Meanwhile, backstairs, Do-sik discovers that Yoon-suk has turned into a monster, a fetus-like shape which heart still beats and hums a song. Do-sik makes a promise that should she turn into a monster, he will kill her, but he can't do it. Yi-kyung discovers that she is pregnant. Hyun-soo keeps on doing dangerous tasks for Eun-hyuk. Through flashbacks, it is revealed that Sang-wook's father was caught in a fiery accident in which Sang-wook barely survives with burn marks. He murders Ki-hyuk, the arsonist convicted for the fire, who was given a lenient sentence. Years later, he was confronted by a father who begs him to rescue his daughter, in which he brought personal justice to Yoon-jae in the present time. She discovers that the government has been experimenting with people turning into monsters. Before she is about to leave, she is captured by the military. While being interrogated by the military, Yi-kyung ends up revealing about Hyun-soo. Hearing about this, the military decides to let her go on condition that she will report anything about Hyun-soo and leaves her with a tracker that will call the military to her location. As soon as the dispatch team gets outside, their vehicle gets hit and turns upside down. The protein monster is responsible for the attack. Following an attack that leaves Jisoo heavily injured, Yoon-hyuk performs surgery even though he is inexperienced at the job. Jaehyun loses one of his arms in the process of keeping the security guard monster occupied while the others are too fearful of fighting it. Jaehyun then sacrifices his own life to have Yoon-hyuk throw a Molotov cocktail, killing him along with the monster, much to everyone's shock and horror. Jisoo is devastated to learn that Jaehyun has died and Sung-young has shown signs of turning into a monster. The group is attacked by a group of outlaws, but luckily Yi-kyung and Sang-wook stay hidden from them. He reveals that he is the sole survivor from the church and that joining the missionaries was to disguise himself. Soon the military sends pamphlets that ask the survivors to report any infected so that they will be granted safety. Yoae Myung asks Hyun-soo which side he will be on once the survivors learn of the information on the pamphlet. As the elevator opens, Hyun-soo introduces Yoo Myung to the rest of the survivors and states that he is just like himself, which causes the group to stand down. The survivors make it above ground after entering the tunnels and are transferred to a safety camp. Yi Kyung decides to join the military and advises the survivors to stay alive. Young-soo wakes up in an armored vehicle after confronting the military and is greeted by Sang-wook, although it is implied that he is really Yoo-myung in disguise. Thank you for watching the recap, and if you liked it, then please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel.